Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for June 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my personal live coaching, also to see more about my new 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, which is intended to help you bring your shine into the world. It's not a coincidence that it's a 28-day program. That is a full moon cycle, and that is how long we need to make new habits and break old habits. And that is available on a sliding scale. And while you're on my site, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. We have so much sweetness going on this month, and this month is truly all about Gemini. We have got the Sun in Gemini. We have the new moon in Gemini. We have Mars in Gemini. We have Mercury retrograde and then direct in Gemini. And we have 4 sweet aspects with the Sun and Mars, with Uranus and Jupiter, with the Sun and Mars being in Gemini. So there's just like massive amounts of focus on your sign. This trend started in May when the personal planet started to move into Gemini. The focus on everything Gemini started. But in May and into just very early June, this continues. A lot of the aspects were challenging aspects. So we had Gemini trying to do its thing, being mobile, sharing information, gathering information, moving all over the place, getting into different things, getting into mischief, doing whatever Geminis love to do. And then all of these hard aspects were coming with Saturn and Neptune, where it was just kind of like busy, 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 and then just like stopping the forward movement. And there was a theme of that in May. And starting with the full moon in Sag on June 2nd, which is a carryover from the energies of May, we have some more challenge here. This full moon has another square to Neptune. These aspects to Neptune were happening at the end of May. And whenever we have a challenging aspect, which a 90-degree angle is a challenging aspect, it brings out the worst in the potential of the sign or the planet. So every planet, every sign, every placement has a range or a spectrum of potential manifestation. And when we have a hard angle or a challenging angle, like a 90 degree is called a square, then the odds that the not as good aspect of that planet will show up are increased. Now when we have sweet aspects like we do most of the rest of the month, then all the planets involved, their best side has more of a chance of being shown. But right here at the beginning on June 2nd, and really the days at the end of May, I always get I call it a full moon freak out. It's like this welling up of emotional whatever, and then it just like bursts out and then it passes. And I get that about 2 to 3 days before the actual full moon. So you may feel this at the end of May, and by the time it's June 2nd, maybe this will already have passed for you. So the full moon is like this discharging of emotions from your fields. I always think of, I'm a crazy dog person. I love dogs, and so I have a lot of dog analogies. That and food analogies, of course, anyway. But so when you take a dog to the beach or give a dog a bath, they shake, 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 and then they get all the water everywhere on everything, and you, right? So that is what the full moon is like our fields are full of this water, which is emotion. And at the full moon, we shake, 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 and then it just gets all over everything and everybody, So, but having this aspect to Neptune brings the challenging aspects of Neptune, which are confusion, chaos, deception, addictions, escapism, avoiding reality or things that really need to be dealt with. Not avoiding reality like in positive imagination, like can also be in the better spectrum of Neptune. This is like avoiding things that really need to be dealt with or not wanting to see the truth about something. So this is very strongly highlighted at the beginning of the month and the end of May into the beginning of June. So this happens in Gemini's 7th house of relationships, but many of you are going to experience it in the 6th house or on the line between the 6th or 7th house. So some of you may have this experience of this fullness or this confusion involving a very key relationship. And there might there might be someone not telling you the whole story. Whenever Neptune is involved in that challenging angle, there's always that chance of deception, and perhaps the person isn't intentionally lying. Maybe they're lying to themselves, and so therefore they're lying to you. But there's something around, you're not getting the whole picture. And since Mercury is already retrograde, we know that we're not getting the whole picture just from that transit. But then you add this in, and there's really something that's going to be outed, that was a mystery or was quiet, that comes out into the open and is emotional in some way. But you're still not going to have all of the details as of the full moon, just because there's this confusion that goes along with it. Now, some of you are going to experience this fullness or completion or fruition in the 6th house, which is the house of health. It's also the house of workday things, you know, like what you do in your daily routine. So a lot of times your job or your office has that energy in the 6th house, because it's something you do every day. So this fullness or deception or things behind the scenes could be happening in the workplace, or it could be involving a pet, or it could be involving a health crisis or warning that comes in, something like that. Again, where you don't have the whole picture though, and you're going to need to have the rest of the month to really, you know, things will start to become more clear. But after that aspect, we've got these amazing aspects that start. So Mars in Gemini makes a beautiful angle to Jupiter. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Oh gosh, before we get into all these sweet aspects, happy birthday to the rest of you. We didn't talk about birthdays. We need to do that. So something else that's exciting about this month is the rest of you who didn't have your birthdays in May, it's your birthday time. And we know that birthdays are astrologically, not birthdays, but birthday wishes are astrologically based, and I guess birthdays are too. But the sun represents what you want. All of the planets represent something in your life, like Mercury represents communication and expression and transportation, and the sun represents your desires, what you want, your creativity, what makes you glow with happiness. And so when the sun in the sky gets around to the same place in your chart where it was when you were born, it's called a solar return. It's a portal that opens that makes the universe more receptive to your desires at that time. That's where the birthday wishes come from. So you write down your birthday wishes, you get 10 of them. You write down your birthday wishes, you say them out loud, and you feel them as if they're coming true. That's the most important aspect of manifesting, is you have to fake it till you make it. You have to spend more time in focusing on what you want than focusing on what you don't want. Because when you're focusing on the lack of what you want, or maybe what could be considered the real picture, then you're perpetuating the creation of how things are right now. But if you focus more energy and concentrated energy on feeling your wishes as if they're coming true, then it's easier to manifest them. So, birthdays. Wanted to make sure that we cover that, and I'm so excited for you and your birthday. I love birthdays. Okay, so back to these sweet aspects. So Mars rules how you use your energy, and Jupiter is the great expander. So some of you are going to have this aspect and the aspect on June 8th, which is the sun then coming and making the same angle to Jupiter. Some of you are going to already have those planets, Mars and the sun, in your 1st house, which is this house of rebirth and this house of new things and your physical self and your identity and what you're presenting to the world. The rest of you are going to have these aspects happening in your 12th house, which rules things that are behind the scenes. It's ruled by Neptune. That's why we have the same tagline there, behind the scenes, as when we were talking about the Neptune aspect. The 12th house relates to Neptune. So there's things like, it's a private space, it's a meditative space, it's a tranquil, imaginative, internal, quiet, reflective space. So these aspects, for some of you middle and all of you later degree Geminis or later birthdays, are more likely to happen in this space of quiet. Now the 1st house, where it's moved for you earlier placements and into the middle placements, some of the middle placements, this is more of like an out there energy rather than an in here energy. So you'll feel them distinctly different depending on where this is happening in your specific chart. But either way, it's awesome, right? So we have the great benefic, the luck bringer, the optimism, growth, expansion bringer in an awesome aspect with Mars that rules forward movement and how you use your energy in your sign. Then we have the sun, which can represent a male energy, either actually a man or someone who has a lot of strong energy who's a female that's a male. I mean, has a lot of strong male energy, but it's a female. So someone can come in and make offerings or give you something or make things, help things to fall into place for you. Between those two aspects, on June 5th and 6th, we have Venus making an awesome aspect to Saturn. And we know that Saturn is a grump, right? He's kind of miserly, he's crotchety, he's, you know, grouchy and emotionally withholding, but he also is wise and rich, right? And gives, you know, teaches lessons that are valuable and help us to create everything we could ever want. So when Venus comes and flirts with the crotchety old codger, Saturn, then it's a sweet spot. And Venus rules love, beauty, and money. So there's a piece there right in the beginning again. As of June 9th, the Sun and Mars are getting closer together. So the reason why the Sun and Mars are making these same aspects is because they are together in the sky. And this happens once every 2-ish years. It's a very powerful time because the Sun energizes anything it's near. So Mars is already pretty strong, and the Sun comes and energizes this like masculine, assertive energy in all of us. And eventually on June 14th, they're going to sit right on top of each other, and then the Sun will overtake Mars because it moves faster than Mars does, and it will pass it. But until then, Mars is kind of making these aspects first, and then the Sun is following behind making the aspects. So Mars and then the Sun make this sextile or beautiful aspect with Jupiter. Then June 9th, we have Mars and then the Sun making this beautiful aspect to Uranus in Aries. So notice that all of these aspects are happening either in air or fire and air. So air and fire signs are going to be lit up like the 4th of July. You know, this is like big, awesome energy. You know, it's as with anything that's a good thing, it can get excessive and out of control. So you have to mind it and just kind of, you know, keep the fire extinguishers around in case the fires blaze so strong from all the air affecting it, you know, but this is just a super powerful time for you. So then, so Uranus is the planet of surprises, and it brings things that come as a surprise. Even if your intuition is telling you something's coming and then it comes in, if Uranus is involved, it somehow seems like a shock or like a surprise. But the probability that this will be a good surprise is increased dramatically because this is an awesome angle. Angles we've had with transits with Uranus in previous months have not been awesome angles. They've been obnoxious angles, and it has showed up with bad news and blindsiding of things coming in that are shocking and jostling, not in a good way. But these aspects are ones that are like, ooh, it comes out of the blue and it's really cool. So we have that really strong on June 9th. We have on June 11th, Mercury is going direct in Gemini. It had been retrograding your sign, likely causing all kinds of mischief with your computers, with your communication, with your other technology, with your cars, with your transportation, with your mobility. But now it's moving direct, and hopefully you will emerge into this time with things more shored up than they were, because these transits always show up weaknesses. So if you don't have any weaknesses, like if you have a brand new machine and it's perfectly functioning, then if you're careful, like you don't drop it in the toilet or something like that, then, you know, it should be working just as it was before. But if you have an older machine and there's a weak link and it's been kind of brewing, this is the kind of transit, the retrograde in Mercury, especially in Gemini, that brings it to light. But then if you fix it and adjust it and work with it, then you leave the transit better for the trouble, you know? So there's always a positive way to frame even these big challenges. But once we are going direct on June 11th, you may then on June 12th say, yay, I can do all the things that I wasn't doing because Mercury was retrograde because it's direct now, it's June 12th. Well, don't do that, because much like when you're slowing down to make a U-turn, that awkwardness and it's awkward and hard to slow down and then try to pick up speed to go again. That's what it's like the several days before and the several days after Mercury goes direct. So like from around June 8th through around June 14th, it's the most challenging time of the going direct. Now, we don't completely get out of the Mercury retrograde post-shadow period until June 27th, but with every day that passes from June 14th on, it gets more and more clear, and there are a lot of sweet aspects that can bring opportunities in that second half of June. If you absolutely have to launch something and you can't wait till all the retrograde personal planets are through in November, then this end of June is an opening where you can get some stuff done. There's still going to be some implications from Venus retrograde having started on June 22nd and Mercury retrograde post-shadow period not ending till the 27th. There's always some ways it's going to show up, but there's some really awesome aspects, and something that you're working on may follow one of these aspects. So this is a window to bring some stuff out if you have to. Okay, so then at the same time around June 14th is where we're going next. June 14th, the sun now catches up with Mars in Gemini, and it makes their conjunction that happens once every 2-ish years. So this is a power day, and it's not a coincidence that this is the day when the energies from Mercury going direct start to clear. So this is like a day where you're like, okay, I can do all this stuff. Again, there might be some implications, but there's a tremendous forward movement with this day, and it's definitely a power day. At this same time, Saturn, which has been in retrograde, is going back into Scorpio. And this is, Saturn had been in Scorpio for years, and when it got out of Scorpio, everyone was like, thank God, right? Because that's the house of relationships and deep intimacy, and Saturn there was really, really hard. Saturn can be hard wherever it is. It can also create wonderful things wherever it is, but in certain placements, it's harder. And that was one of the placements that it was harder. So when it went into Sag, many people were rejoicing that it was out of Scorpio, but now here for a few months, we're going to have the energy back into Scorpio. And any unfinished business with karmic relationships, is going to come up to be worked with. I see karma as belief systems that we have held very strongly, possibly in previous lifetime even, or we come in with them, however we come in with them, it doesn't matter. But it's a strong belief about something. And whenever we have a strong belief about something, then we attract contrary energies, because the universe is always seeking balance. So if you feel really strongly about something, then you're going to attract opportunities to soften that. And that's what karma is all about. So if you're proactively softening your viewpoints, then the universe has to do less work to bring up drama and antagonism for you by, using these transits to show weak links. A very staunch, unyielding belief system is a weak link. Now, that's not to say someone shouldn't have principles, or values or things that they're consistent with and stick to. But there's a different energy around being in resonance with something and being consistent with it, and then having a judgment of everything else that's not it. The judgment here is what attracts the contrary energies. And so during this time when Saturn is back in Scorpio and is going retrograde, you can write a list of all of the things that you have strong opinions about, especially things involving relationship or people you've been in relationship with, and then work on softening those things so that the universe doesn't have to run you through the ringer in order to soften them for you, run you through the meat tenderizer to get everything all juicy. It wants this fluidity in us. The universe wants this fluidity in us, and it gets it through pounding us with transits. So, on June 16th, we have the new moon in your sign. This is a very auspicious time, the new moon in your sign. And so for some of you, that's going to be in the first house. As we talked about, some of you are still having this Gemini energy, middle to later placements in your 12th house. So some of you might experience it there. But there's very strong energy around renewal, new things coming in. And this is a time for reinvention. This is a time for wishing, new moon wishes, wishing for everything involving Gemini, sharing information, things involving siblings or relatives that aren't your parents or kids, your mobility, writing projects, communication projects, general communication. Wishes like that are really strong during this time. So then we have the sun moving into Cancer on June 21st, and the summer solstice energy, which is another power day, a day of most light, or even the day of most dark, these are power days when we can use this for either bringing light to the spaces where there's darkness or going in very deep and drawing the light in, however that works. But it's a power day for going in deep. And why is it that I always talk about inner work? I know that some of you would like me to stop doing that, and it's not going to happen. So if you want not that, then you have to go somewhere else, because I cannot separate inner work from astrology, because I understand the way the transits work is the potentials out in the universe get drawn in through our crown chakra. And then they're here as these raw potentials, right? So you've got all these awesome potentials this month, and they're brewing, and they come into your field, and they come in this way. And then what happens is they mix with your program, your DNA imprint, your stamp on your brain, which is your natal chart, which are your proclivities and the karma and all of this stuff, your belief systems, your programs that are even wired in your musculoskeletal system, and they look for agreement. And so let's say these beautiful transits want to bring you more ease in your communication, or a new car, or something, a new reinventing yourself in this wonderful way. And so it comes in and it's trying to do that. And you have a program that says, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve this. I can't do anything different. Then the transits bow down to your program. That's why some people will listen to horoscopes and continually there'll be a long-term thing going on that's positive and they're not feeling it. I have people write all the time and say, all this good stuff is supposed to be going on. I'm not having that go on, but the bad stuff that's going on, I'm having that like tenfold. What does that mean? Why? Why is that? It's definitely not because astrology doesn't work, because astrology is a truth. All cultures who have had written record of their existence have used astrology for small and big things in their civilizations, because we live in a holographic reality, and you know that when you see outside, you're really looking deep within yourself, and vice versa. So if you're not having manifestations, it's not because astrology doesn't work, it's not because the astrologer is lying, it's not because of any of these things, it's because your program has to match, be in agreement for the positive transit that's coming through, or your program will trump the transit. So you can see now why I can't separate talking about inner work from astrology, because everybody wants to have the best of astrological transits to manifest for them, and everyone wants to minimize the worst. So if you want that, you can't just watch horoscopes and wait for what's supposed to be a good aspect and then hope for the best. You have to take an active role in your destiny. And you do that by doing inner work, clearing out those programs. So on June 22nd, we have Jupiter and Uranus making this awesome sacred geometrical configuration called a trine, which is a 120-degree angle. And this is like the culmination of all these sweet aspects that we've had all month, because Mars and the Sun made this 60-degree angle to Jupiter, and then Mars and the Sun made this 60-degree angle to Uranus. And then, of course, that means if those are in relationship to each other, then the other planets are in relationship to each other as well, which is Jupiter and Uranus, and they're making this 120-degree angle. So this has actually been happening in a big way or a small way since Jupiter got into Leo last summer of 2014. But most of the time was spent in a soft trine. But this is a full-on trine. So happy surprises mixing with Jupiter's benefic, great benefic, benevolent expansion is what is in store here, as long as your program is in agreement and says yes to that. So the last sweet aspect we have, June 28th, June 29th, is Venus now in Leo makes a sweet aspect to Uranus. So more happy surprises. Those obnoxious angles that we had Uranus in previous months that were blindsiding everyone, that's so different than the energy this month. These are things that come out of the blue that will more likely be positive. So I hope that this wonderful month that's all about Gemini serves you well. I hope it equips you more with the tools that you need to move forward in your life. That is what I do. I would love to help you. You can go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, and you can see more about my personal life coaching. And while you're there, you can also check into my 28-day virtual coaching program, which is available on a sliding scale so that it's accessible to everyone. And it's intended to help you clear up those programs so that when these awesome transits come through and want you to say yes, your program says yes, everything's a green light. Through your third eye, we have this magical manifestation that is your life. Yeah, so while you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. I hope you have a wonderful month. I'll see you next month. Bye.